Perfect and welcome to join me on Newsroom. I'm Kejan Henry Atembe in Douala, Cameroon. Now, Newsroom will take you through some of the topical issues that made news in the course of the week. And of course, with my guest, we are going to discuss some of these issues and see how it impacts on the lives of Cameroonians, Africans, and of course the people of the world. But now, first things first, let's begin with our headlines.
So help me God.
A dawn of a new era in Zimbabwe after the demise of the old fox Robert Gabriel Mugabe. The sweet revenge orchestrated by Vice President and decade-long Bush war comrade to Mugabe, Emerson Mnangagwa, is revealing and a lesson to many African leaders who cling to power. Newsroom today takes a snapshot on the situation in Zimbabwe and asks, is there a difference between Mugabe and Emerson Mnangagwa? And again, we question, can the Mugabe lesson be a good one to long-serving African leaders?
So you can see the CPDM has abandoned the hemicycle because we want to talk about the Anglophone problem, crisis. Even the president has run away. Everybody has gone. Journalists have gone. Spectators have gone. The last one from Canal 2 is escaping because they are afraid to talk about the Anglophone crisis.
SDF MPs maintain boycott, takes Parliament hostage, asking for the House to tackle the Anglophone crisis. CPDM MPs vamoosed, leaving only SDF parliamentarians as they stayed on. Newsroom equally takes interest in the parliamentary cacophony and questions, are we truly one and indivisible Cameroon? Again, is the government willing to solve the Anglophone crisis as asked by the Social Democratic Front? Deadlock in Buea as opposing camps fail to submit a candidate for the paramount stool. Prince Esoka Ndeli versus Prince Alexander Ngomba Ndeli battle for the royal crown. Newsroom today takes interest in the Buea paramount chieftaincy stool and asks, are lobby groups pulling the strings from the dark? Hundreds of African illegal migrants regain their fatherland. The returnees recount stories of their ordeals as modern-day slaves in Libya. Today's edition of Newsroom moves through the contours of the migration crisis and scans the mitigating circumstances that led to their departure from their father's land. These and more will constitute our package for this edition of Newsroom. Welcome. This is Newsroom, reaching you live from our studios in Douala, Cameroon. And I'm Kejan Henry Atembe in Douala, like you rightly got from the headlines of the news room today. My learned guest, of course, we're going to chart the different topics that we had on our headlines. Augustine Wendum, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, Kejan Henry. I'm humbled and indeed honored to be on this panel all alone. And I do believe that at the end of the day, inspiration and of course providence is going to lead us to conscientize Cameroonians.
Augustine Wendum is a journalist with Veritas Radio and Television. Should I add corporation?
You just right to do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here in Douala, they have a direct link with the Vatican Radio and Television Corporation. Augustine, I want to thank you graciously for being part of the program, where we were expecting to have other panelists along the line. But just as a teaser to this program, Augustine, we are in Douala, and you understand very well that Douala is having a lot of urban disorder. You know, the entrance into the east part of the city, the entrance into the west part, the problem around the wrong point, despite the fact that the bridge is probably open for circulation pending inauguration by I don't know who. But then we still have a lot of headache, circulating around Douala.
When you want to talk about
potholes all over.
When you are talking about the inauguration of the new bridge or the second bridge over the Vuri River, I begin to ask myself, how can they inaugurate a bridge when there is no passage? Because the bridge, when opened, was thought that it was going to solve the problem of traffic congestion in the city center, but it has been a nightmare, particularly around Wrong Point. You understand? And this is a result of the fact that almost all roads in Douala are broken. You get bumping roads. In fact, the roads are macadamizing in the manner that even on board a taxi in Douala, conversation is not coherent. Because constantly you are jumping.
You're jumping
from your seat. And you can imagine how dangerous it is when you are on a motorbike. One begin to ask, is it the economic hub of the country called Cameroon, Douala City? So you talk about urban disorder. Everything in Cameroon is in disorderly manner. What is orderly here? Nothing, absolutely. And this is the fact that when, Republican devaluation of power could not be given to the people so that a kind of autonomy be enjoyed at the local council areas, so that, social amenities be guaranteed to Cameroon. The other day, I heard people or politicians coming to table to revisit the tripartite accord in Yaoundé. I said, but these are people who want to deviate attention, because the tripartite had gone on for 26 years, and the terms of the tripartite had never been applied. And today, if you come to be talking about the tripartite, when Cameroon is at the crossroad, I look at such leaders as deviators.
Hypocrites?
You can call them hypocrites. Because this is where I want Cameroonians to a kind of awaken from their political docility and say no to such hypocritic political leaders. Cameroon are having, clear political problems that are supposed to call attention of every Cameroonian. Today, somebody cannot be talking about the tripartite accord. The tripartite accord can no longer solve the present problem of this epoch.
Some people think, Augustine, that the urban disorder in Douala is as a result of the lack of morality perpetrated. But anyway, to an extent, because at one point when the government wants to put things in order, when I'm talking about the government, I'm talking about a government delegate, but the people themselves are wayward because at the level of local councils, they are not helped in that direction.
I was talking about, why did I make reference to the tripartite accord? Because that's what brought about decentralization. And decentralization have in its in its vision the fact that local councils were going to be given autonomy in order to run cities and local council areas. But at the same time, instead of actually applying and implementing the tripartite accord, government went ahead appointing government delegate to lord it over people's elected representatives who are mayors. Today, how can the government delegate to the Douala City Council help put order? He is not an elected official. He does not have the mandate of the people. That is why they are taking a medical doctor to go for politicking. How can a medical doctor go for urban development?
Well,
this is a paradox, and you cannot blame the learned doctor. That is not his field.
and he was just appointed. And
He was just appointed.
And he has to do the job. Well, thanks very much, Augustine. We stay on. We are expecting we will have certainly Barrister Ebi Stanley, Seseko Ebi Stanley, all the way from Buea as a participant on the program. And of course, through an interview that we granted him in Buea, of course, he's going to throw light on the different topics that we are going to discuss on the program. But now we move over to something different. This time we have our press review, courtesy Meme Dominic, who is standing by for our press review.
The Garden Post, La Nouvelle Expression, Le Messager, Cameroon Tribune and several other daily newspapers in Cameroon carry the story of SDF MPs interrupting the plenary session at the National Assembly Thursday. Though what has been termed the big story of the week in Cameroon is handled differently by several newspapers, one thing they agree on is the fact that less than 20 SDF parliamentarians at the National Assembly braved all odds and interrupted work, forcing CPD MPs and other members of government to walk out unwillingly. The Star newspaper stays in the National Assembly, but this time questioned the non-publication of an investigation launched last week to get the cause of a gigantic fire incident at the Ngwai Glass House. The paper presents statistics that a total of 75 fire incidents have ravaged Cameroon within a period of 3 months. If fire incident in the northwest and the southwest is always blamed on secessionists by government officials, the Star newspaper questions who is setting ablaze places in the littoral and central regions of Cameroon. How will the University of Buea administration stripped the mayor of Buea Council of certificates he fraudulently obtained at the University of Buea? That is the big question the Rambler newspaper is asking, indicating that the mayor, Ekima Patrick Esonge, stands high risk of separating with certificates he obtained from the University of Buea. We stay in higher education with Informate newspaper explaining how the Director General of the National School of Administration and Magistracy, ENAM, apologized to the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms. The paper points that to St. Linus Menjana went begging Michel Anshangwin after he published a list of successful candidates of the school without respecting norms. Unprecedented gunshot rocks the town of Bamenda with one policeman shot. The Sun newspaper says 4 other civilians were equally injured in the gunshot. No gunshot in the town of Buea, as the chieftaincy problem in the town has been settled. The newspaper tells us that a Soka Ndele has been selected to sit on the stool that has been vacant for some time now. We end with the Rambler newspaper recounting circumstances leading to the fall of Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe. The paper points the role of his wife, Grace, to the ugly end of Mugabe's 37 rule in Zimbabwe.
The Social Democratic Front, Cameroon's main stream political opposition party, actually braved the odds to suspend or to push Parliament to suspend activities during the week. And of course, the Social Democratic Front thinks that the parliamentary session cannot go on without the Anglophone problem or crisis on the agenda. And as one of our major topical issues, the SDF is seem to be harvesting some positive strides from what political pundits will hold and some Cameroonians. Augustine Wendum, you probably followed up what happened at the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And this is probably the first of its kind, Augustine.
The first of its kind indeed, but I want to say that since I'm a journalist and I'm not here to front for any political party, but I want to say that if from a journalistic point of view, if I want to analyze, since the coming to play or the inception of the Social Democratic Front as a political party, they have taken giant steps in addressing burning issues that are affecting the lives of Cameroonians in many spaces, even if there are some questions to be asked per that political party. But I want to say, for instance, if I want to look at the Social Democratic Front, the SDF, from the time elections were managed in Cameroon by the Ministry of Territorial Administration. I will see them on the street. I had covered them. Their militants being flocked here on the street of Douala. They will carry ballot box or transparent ballot boxes to match with, calling for a credible and independent body that could oversee the management of elections in Cameroon. That is one. I will see the Social Democratic Front boycott or walk out of parliamentary business several times just because they do not agree with the proceedings of the standing orders of the National Assembly, but certain situations or issues that are affecting the lives of Cameroonians. And this time around, 1 year plus for the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon, the Social Democratic Front as a political party had been a kind of, I've read them, be it on social media, be it on their communiques or letters to the President of the Republic, to the Speaker of the National Assembly, and even to the Minister in charge of relation with the Assembly, calling the attention of these personalities per the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon.
Augustine?
Yes?
Some people will think that the SDF has now, or the SDF now seems to have embraced the philosophy of Honorable Wilbur, who actually said there is a problem. And this time around, the Social Democratic Front is coming to understand that Wilbur made a point. Could it be that way?
I want to differ from those who thought that Wilbur was acting individually. Wilbur is an MP of the SDF. There is no independent parliamentarian in Cameroon. Wilbur had the opportunity to mount the rostrum of the hemicycle because of the SDF. And since, like I say, I'm a journalist covering the national chairman, John Frundi, rallies in Cameroon, they have always called the attention of government about Anglophone marginalization. They have been talking in their manifesto, as I read for time immemorial, about federalism, bringing Cameroon back to a federal state. So to answer to your question, I don't think that it is the action of Wilbur was just a spark igniting the powder keg. The SDF parliamentary group or the SDF as a leading opposition party had marched in Bamenda. They had marched in Boya.
The march in Yaoundé.
They marched in Yaoundé. And if Wilbur brave the odds, is because in every political grouping, there are those who would a kind of be like a stimulus. And that is why Wilbur is standing tall And if Wiba is standing tall, it's for the Social Democratic Front.
And not for himself.
And not for himself.
There was a conspicuous absence of Wiba at the parliamentary session. Does it mean Wiba has withdrawn from parliament? Anyway, could it be said that way, as some people think?
Well, what I read from papers, Wiba had not made any formal declaration.
Whether or not he has withdrawn from parliament.
Whether or not he has withdrawn from parliament, but what I know is that it was alleged, he's not alone. Madam Ole came after. It was told from news headline that the population of their constituency compelled them to stay back. And that is why the parliamentary group leader, Honorable Joseph Mbadazim, and even the Secretary General of the SDF was saying that these are issues that Parliament would have pronounced on because their deputies are threatened. MPs are threatened in their constituency. If they are actually MPs of the nation and not for a particular grouping,
then they should look at those problems.
They should look at those problems.
And the Anglophone problems. Augustine, let us, with your permission, have a smart short on what Honorable Wiba said some time ago.
Yeah.
Thank God we had him on our record. And of course, with the assistance of our producer, Raul Ngufo, we're going to have Honorable Wiba Joseph so that they could refresh our memories of what he said.
People can do what has been done to our children in West Cameroon. I call it West Cameroon because you will never take it out of our mouths again, because that is a territory in which we believe in freedom. To go out on the street and demonstrate is a basic right for us. And that is why we are saying that there are two Cameroons that came together. If you are telling us, like a state minister stood here last year and told us that what happened in Cameroon is like dropping a few cubes of sugar into a basin of water. Who is the sugar and who is the water? I'm asking the government bench of Cameroon. Who is? That you rape our children. My brother's daughter has been raped in Boya. I swear to you, the government of this country, does the president of this country know that the governors and the DOs and all the administrators you are sent to West Cameroon are out there behaving exactly like an army of occupation? Our people have nowhere to go. We have made all the efforts. Our ancestors and our forefathers trusted you to go into a gentleman's agreement that two people who considered themselves brothers could go to live together. If this is what you show us after 55 years, then those who are saying that we should break Cameroon are right. They are correct. The people of West Cameroon cannot be your slaves. The people of West Cameroon are not, you did not conquer them in war. If this is what you are saying that we should live in, I say simply, no, it will not work. How do you have an army that's supposed to protect children? Step out there, beat them, and rape some. It is not heard of in any country. This is the 21st century, and anybody who does that, I cannot be willing for his government to pay the price.
A minute before, yes, I already told you that just a minute before, that it will now need, because when you have 100+ people killed in your part of the country because the people were holding a demonstration to demand a certain thing, why should the issue of a state that was brought into this union become taboo, for which hundreds of our people have to die? It's unheard of. It's unacceptable. Almost reconfirmed by other organizations, human rights organizations. Our commission's work has come up with 122 people dead in connection with the violence that began on the 1st of October, and which to us is still ongoing because a lot of people are still being chased around the place, and we don't know who may die again in the process. I can confirm to you that our findings came up with 150 people missing. Missing means their family cannot account for them, they can't trace them, they've never spoken to anybody, they have not contacted anybody, family or friend, from the 1st of October. There are 150 of them. Then our findings also came up with the statistic that 1,894 persons were injured either by direct gunshots, torture, or other forms of violence that the soldiers meted out on the people. 1,894 of them. And we now have at least 16,000 people internally displaced in the northwest and the southwest. One of the things that actually happened that many people did not understand or did not take maybe great notice of was that there still are soldiers, gendarmes, police people going around hunting down people. There are long and interminable lists I hear are being handed out by people who say they are supporting the regime and supporting the party in power, handing out lists in villages and in towns of people they now believe that if the government eliminated or kept in jail, then the survival of the regime would be guaranteed. So there are still all of these things going on. And that is what has caused the displacement of this number of people. Then coming down to the refugees, I think it's quoted all over. The UNHCR had already come out with a figure. The governor of the Cross River State in Nigeria actually held an official meeting a few days back just to look for ways and means of how they would contain this number of people who had suddenly, landed on their doorsteps. And to tell you the truth, I haven't been there yet, but part of our commission members visited and were able to confirm that you had these crowds of people crowded in areas without security, without safety, no water, no potable water, with young children, some of them having children on the way as they were running across, and the humanitarian situation.
And that was Honorable Weber Joseph, the MP for Jakiri, of course, SDF MP for Jakiri, talking there on the problems on the Anglophone crisis. And this particular issue actually pushed the Parliament, the members of Parliament of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement out of a session. Now, Augustine Wendum, incidentally, can we say Weber now prophesied rightly?
He did. When we read about the Martin Luther King Jr. of yesteryears, we thought that it was history. But we are seeing political visionaries, political prophet of our generation, though we refused to see. Because where did Weber go wrong? No. What Weber said in Parliament, if at all it was a parliament that was working for the interests of the Cameroonian people, he would have been applauded for. Not just about. Because the only thing Weber went wrong in is that he told the truth. Where truth does not prevail. Where people do not want to hear about the truth. But I want to tell you that John 3:18 says, only the truth, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Incidentally, the Social Democratic Front Senators Augustine Wendum did not walk out of the Senate to express indignation like their peers.
The Senate is
the
not
lower- of
the,
the
the
lower
Senate is not a deliberative body. Debate is at the lower house, and debate, once it's debated and is carried to the Senate, they examine. I'm even surprised that the Senate in Cameroon is debating bills. No, that is not their role.
You could examine and send it back.
They examined. If it's okay, fine. If it's not okay, they send it back. That is the role of this of senators. So they do not need to walk out of parliament because there's no issue at the Senate. But the debate is at the lower house, is in parliament. And I want to come, Kedian, I started by saying that I'm not fronting for any political party here. Neither am I a militant, nor even I'm a journalist by profession.
You don't sympathize with any political party anyway.
Yes, but I want to tell you here, because I want to say this loud and clear. When people, I used to hear people say, Frundi is always showing that he's the leading opposition leader in Cameroon, who gave him, who would have given him?
But it's clear.
It's clear by numbers, by political or by electoral consultation. There's no match, and even by political action on the field, Frundi and the Social Democratic Front has proven yesterday, today, and is still going to prove tomorrow that they are the leading political parties, not opportunists. Not people because of their academic credentials, they will come and say, oh, I have a profile, I can rule Cameroon. No. Politics is not illusions. So I want to say, I had expected to see opposition political MPs, okay, sitting, not walking out, in solidarity with the Social Democratic Front, to show that the opposite, there is because in Cameroon you get it, 2018 is in the horizon. It's good that opposition political parties in Cameroon should come into a coalition. I said, to me, it's a farce, because how many opposition political party leaders are really honest to front and to fight for the interests of Cameroonians? I see them egoistic, self-centered, and to an extent, those who, some with intellectual dishonesty, and even jealousy.
Augustine, incidentally, we understand that the MPs are meeting in the southwest region to bury one of theirs, talking about Honorable Lee Singe R2. We would have expected that, well, they walked out of parliament, but they are still there to bury one of their colleagues.
No, I want to tell you, we are Africans first. We have respect for the dead. In politics, in political science, it's stated, no permanent enemies, no permanent friends. When it comes to death, they are all Cameroonians. For the fact that they have different political ideology, different political divides, do not wish that another should die. And if God has called one of them, they have the right to go pay their last respect to their fallen colleagues. Let me tell you, I want to believe strongly that in the crushing majority of the MPs of the Cameroon People Democratic Movement, the CPDM, they are equally very honest Cameroonians. But for the fact that their hands are tied, like the hands of Dipanda Mwele in 1992, some of them will tell you in the dark that we don't agree with this thing. Yes, but I want to say that there comes an epoch where fear should be defied.
CPDM MPs of English extraction, if not, I should say, biological material, equally walk out. rather than show solidarity with the Social Democratic Front?
It's not an insult I'm giving them. CPDM MPs of English or Anglophone extraction, they are liability. They are liability. They are liability per the people. If I have a vote, I can never give to such a people. CPDM MPs of the CPDM of Anglophone extraction, they are liability and not an asset.
They would have
stayed back, because what
violating their party lines.
They are in parliament. They are no longer CPDM MPs. They are MPs of the nation. They should be respecting party lines when they are going to their congresses. Even back to their various constituencies, when they want to bring micro grants, project grants,
not for SDF
do they select to know whether you are SDF, UNDP, or CPDM? When they are building a bridge or providing didactic material to a school, do they select
to know whether your father is
your father is a CPDM militant or CPP? Or CPP? No. I want to say that by their action, they have proven that they are a political liability and not a political asset.
Thanks very much, Augustine. When we stay on the program, I think just time for us to have Raungufu leading us to meet Barrister Ebi Stanley Seseku, who talked about all these issues that we got in our headlines, and we probably going to discuss more on that. And of course, his own insight on the issues from the Social Democratic Front, the lessons of Mugabe, and why not the migrants issue. Pastor Ebi, good day.
Good day, Keja.
You followed what happened in the lower house of assembly, wherein the SDF blocked all proceedings asking for the MPs or the House to look at the Anglophone crisis. Now, what is your take on that?
Well, Mr. Kejan, thank you for giving me this opportunity once more. What the main opposition party did at the parliament is to send a very strong message that it cannot be business as usual. But then they were doing the needful. So I'll commend them for doing such a thing. But then they have to go a step further.
And which is that step?
Well, for the past years now, the SDF has been very, very dormant. It has been close to zero opposition party. What they are doing now is to reawaken the spirit of that. As Cameroonians, they want them to look for solutions to the Cameroonian problems. Truly, they have done what they did. I expect them to make the Cameroonian population know that there is a problem, and the problem, we need dialogue. Let us sit on the dialogue table and provide solutions to these problems. The so-called Anglophone crisis, the Boko Haram and other things. Not just the Anglophone crisis. Boko Haram, the refugee influx into Cameroon, all those things constitute the package that we have to discuss in Parliament.
But the major issue was the Anglophone crisis that the House did not even want to hear. That is a very powerful one that came from the Social Democratic Front, Barrister.
No, if they say the House don't want to hear, it's an overstatement. I don't think so. I don't think so that the House don't want to hear. Even this thing, it is a much talked about topic. That is the head of state in his magnanimity and his wisdom. He has deployed members of government, the Prime Minister, and others to come and dialogue with people.
Was that a solution?
Yeah, well, it is part of the solution. It's part of the solution. We cannot have a political situation, problem needs a political solution, and it goes step by step. You cannot just think that overnight things will just change. No, we should take this thing gradually. Yeah. So I think.
But when the House Speaker refused to even mention that there is a problem, I mean, it becomes as if the Anglophone problem is, or the Anglophones are not part of the country.
Yeah, that was the end of the plenary. That's what the end of the plenary. They could still bring the Anglophone problem another day. It's for them to keep on pressing on. If the House Speaker says no, it doesn't mean they cannot bring it on the floor of the Parliament. They can. Well, that is my take.
But on the contrary, the colleagues of the upper house stayed on. It means the SDF, according to you, did not complete their fight, because the upper house would have even walked out of their session.
Yeah, that is to tell that there is a crack within the SDF. There is a crack. There is a fault line within the SDF. They don't act in synergy. So it is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
Now the SDF is talking much about the Anglophone problem, and you being a barrister at law and a common law lawyer, you are directly affected. Now let me ask you, have you resumed court sessions?
Oh, Mr. Kija, I'll answer in the affirmative. Yes, we have resumed court session. We have the court is up and doing. The court is up and doing. By the day the numbers swear. So are you like saying that the ban, or rather the strike action, has been suspended? Yes.
By who?
Yeah. Let me cast your mind back. On the 11th of October 2017, this year, the FACO lawyers, FACLA, convened a meeting wherein we had about close to 200 lawyers, and unanimously on the floor of that meeting, we decided that we would suspend the strike. On that basis, I, for one, have been going to court, because as of now, I don't have any contrary or counter resolution that we should go back to court. So my going to court is because we have suspended the strike, and we are going to court.
For how long?
Well, we are supposed for 6 months. We are supposed to strike for 6 months. So that's why we are going to court. And I'll call the other colleagues to go back to court.
And so if after 6 months nothing is done, what will you do?
We'll reconvene, then we'll chart the way forward.
Thank you, Barrister.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that's interesting indeed. Barrister A.B. Stanley Seseko talking there to me on the SDF strides to call on the Parliament to look into the Anglophone crisis, without necessarily asking you whether or not Barrister A.B. Stanley made a point, or without contradicting him. You followed him. Probably you have a comment on that.
Yes, I agree with Barrister A.B. Stanley because if the debate about issues affecting Cameroonians is not in Parliament, where else is it going to take place?
The question, that is it.
Where else? I think that the parliamentary group of the Social Democratic Front, Barrister A.B. said that the SD has been dormant. Well, I can't contradict that, but I want to say that at one point in life, politicking cannot be constant. A good political strategies has to go with change, flexibilities, and all the light. Because I want to say that when John Frundi had not met President Paul Biya for close to 20 years, there were some Cameroonians who held the view that he was not any personality. That's why the president despised him. But when finally the myth was broken and they met in Bamenda during the 50th anniversary of the Cameroon Army, Armed Forces, you know, some immediately turned and they were now saying that, oh, he has now eaten soya. He has now taken his own booty. They are now friends. But I want to say that in a democratic culture, in a democratic society, a sitting government must be in talking terms with the leading opposition party in order to move the country forward. When there is a stalemate, there is a standstill in all facets of national life.
Is that, are you like saying that, well, the SDF actually adopted the Maoist approach or philosophy where they take a step back or they retreat when the enemies approach?
Well,
they were retreating.
I don't know their political. I don't know their political strategy, but I want to say that what they did in Parliament was capital, and I think what I'm looking forward
But do you
is
think that
not
that would probably push the government to, or the parliament, or the leading political party in the parliament, I'm talking about the CPDM, to address, or other parliamentarians to address the Anglophone crisis?
if I want to trace events, when the SDF took to the street, the body that is overseeing the management of elections in Cameroon was changed. They went to New 1, New 2,
and then to Elekam.
and then to Elekam. And I don't think that the government, those who think that the government despise the proposal of the opposition, to me, I think it's not correct.
But it did not produce any concrete result because they came up with an 11-point
proposal, and that is why they are still on. They are like what I'm reading. They are still on with demands of to ameliorate the electoral code in Cameroon. And I think that what my take now on the SDF parliamentary group is, where can they go? How further can they go? We want to see another tragedy. Are they going to disrupt parliament for the whole of the November session if the Anglophone crisis is not included on the agenda? That is the question I'm asking, and only them can best answer to that question.
Thanks very much, Wendy Augustine. We will stay on the program. Probably just time for us to have a respite. When we come back, we'll move into our second talking point. And if you are joining us, this is Newsroom. I'm Kejan Henry Atembe in Douala. And now the old fox in Zimbabwe has gone. Robert Gabriel Mugabe left the throne after a military coup. And of course, his longtime bushwalk comrade, Emerson Mnangagwa, has been installed officially as the new president of that country. But then the question remains whether Mnangagwa is Mugabe in a different code. Now, Augustine, you followed the events as they unfold. Now, Emerson Mnangagwa has finally taken over as the president of Zimbabwe. Maybe this is a good news to the Zimbabweans.
I don't want to talk about Mr. Mnangagwa first. Let me go to OPA, to Grambop, to this African longest serving leader, oldest leader, Robert Gabriel Mugabe. I want to say that it is time Africans identify with those who thought or are thinking that Pan-Africanism means internalizing power. No. Pan-Africanism should not be internalization of power. Africa had come to the crossroad, and I believe that those African leaders, or sit-tight African leaders who have never had the appetite of democratic culture, or where democracy prevails, there are no party, should start knowing that a good actor leaves the stage when the applause is still loudest. And a good visitor is one who knows when to leave.
When to leave the host house.
Yes. If not, it's going to be chaotic. Robert Mugabe at 93 was virtually being rolled and toasted about by his wife, Grace Mugabe. And you cannot blame Robert Mugabe at 93 seeing such a pretty woman around him. At 93, at one moment you cannot make water by yourself. At 93, you need somebody to animate your being. And Grace Mugabe did just that. And that is why she suddenly became politically influential and powerful, and could influence issues in Zimbabwe in any direction.
At the detriment of
at the detriment
Mugabe's
of
long time bushwalk colleagues or comrades.
Bushwalk colleague or comrades, as you said. But I want to say that Africa had come to the crossroad to have what is called transformational leaders, not transactional leaders.
Do you think Emerson Mnangagwa will be able to turn the tides? Because we know Zimbabwe has had a lot of problems, a country that has no currency now. Today they treat in rand, tomorrow they treat in dollars, and if I talk about US dollars, in pounds, in all currencies, and they're even threatening to use the Japanese yen and even the Chinese rupee, interestingly. So Mnangagwa might not want to fit himself in the Mugabe's shoes.
Just note this. Emerson Mnangagwa, or power change in Zimbabwe is not democratic. It is not a democratic transition. Because if you go, even the internal rules and regulation of the ZANU-PF have been violated. The constitution turned around. That is why the day the army circled Robert Mugabe, you could see pieces of papers passing around. What they gave Mugabe to read, the old man demonstrated wisdom and did not read what they gave him to read.
He spoke from his
mind. He improvised his speech like a politician in this country.
And that's why they call him the old fox.
Of course, I call him Grandpa.
Almost dribbled the crocodile.
Of course. So what I'm saying is that Mnangagwa Emerson will have an uphill task because this is not yet a democratic transition in Zimbabwe. He is coming from ZANU-PF. He's a war veteran. He is Mugabe
an incarnation of Mugabe.
An incarnation of Mugabe. Don't be surprised that he becomes ruthless tomorrow than even Mugabe.
But the world is looking. The world is watching. The world is watching Mnangagwa from the other side of the fence and thinks that he might be able to change the things because he had even promised. And with the discussions he had with South African leaders, Jacob Zuma, and even the leader of Botswana, outgoing president of Botswana, it shows that they are giving him advice to make sure. Because Zimbabwe is already down the drain.
Yes, but I'm afraid.
We've never heard of the world where a country moves up to 90% of unemployment.
That's it. I'm afraid because the problem of Mnangagwa may spring from within and not from without. Remember, though the political mentor of Grace Mugabe was her husband, she's not made her final word. And I want to tell you that the popularity Grace had enjoyed in Zimbabwe, if she has to spring back on the political rostrum, is going to cause an earthquake, except she will not have the influence any longer because the political guru behind her is now be trimmed. But I want to say that Mnangagwa will succeed only if he will bring the political forces of Zimbabwe to table, to chart the way forward. If you want to think that he is going to do it only with the war veterans, with the ZANU-PF, he's going to have a very tough one.
So he should move probably to twin up with the MDC,
Morgan Tsvangirai, and other political leaders in order to see that a true democratic culture is ushered into Zimbabwe. It was speculated, it was even said that Robert Mugabe was going to attend the inaugurals, but he wasn't. He was not there.
So in fact, which means that the new government is doing everything to put Mugabe at bay, and probably why not Grace? Because he's been dismissed from the party.
He's been dismissed. So, this is one of the things I told you, that Mnangagwa might have trouble from within. because the rules and regulations of ZANU-PF have been violated. Dismissing Mugabe from ZANU-PF and Grace for no crime. No crime. They haven't committed a crime. But the rules and regulations or the laws governing ZANU-PF, they haven't committed a crime, but they have been dismissed from the party. You don't want to tell me that Mugabe, even an ex-president, would not enjoy some privileges.
But of course, it's amongst the things that they noted is the fact that he's guaranteed, the fact his immunity is guaranteed.
Yeah, his immunity is guaranteed, and he will still, don't forget to know that Mugabe, the South African leaders, can only be likened to Nelson Mandela. He served about 10 years imprisonment to liberate his people, to set the Zimbabwe people free from the white minority rule. He did that. The only crime, the only error of Robert Mugabe
was to appoint the wife vice president.
To appoint the wife vice president. That was a political blunder, a political error.
And a betrayal to Mnangagwa, his all-time Bush war comrade.
And and Mugabe fabricated Mnangagwa.
Yes, we understand. Now, Augustine, thanks very much. We stay on probably just one word or so, but then I would like to us to talk on the migrant crisis. Of course, hundreds of Cameroonians.
Why close on this issue of Zimbabwe without lessons? These lessons should be learned. Nelson Mandela came out of prison after 27 years, served a mandate, and went home. He is now an iconic leader on this planet Earth.
Now, Augustine, now you are talking about lessons. Anyways, sorry for that. Okay, but maybe it could be a lesson to some tight-fisted African leaders.
I say a good visitor is one.
How many of them?
Is one.
Fingertips.
No. In fact, in the entire Central African sub-region, with the exception of Central African Republic
or Congo
or Gabon. Even Gabon is a dynasty. Yes. We have not had any democratic culture in the Central African sub-region. So the sub-regional leaders should
start thinking.
Develop this culture, this zeal.
So, is it time for our Central African leaders of the Central African sub-region to start thinking of maybe
that if you do not want to leave power will leave you.
Or if you overstay your visit, the host will send you out.
Not even sending you out, but giving you sour grapes.
Thank you very much. No, Augustine, thank you. But let's have a respite. We'll come back to conclude on the program. Well, of course, hundreds of Cameroonians and Africans at large have regained their fatherland after being held as slaves in Libya. In fact, the returnees recounted their ordeals. But I would like us to move very quickly to meet Barrister Ebi Seseku to throw more light on this. When we come back, I'll meet my guest on the program, Wendy Mabasta. Now, Barrister Ebi, the present crisis, that is the migration crisis that is rocking the continent, is equally attributed to the fact that there is bad governance in this country, which is tantamount or synonymous to the Anglophone crisis. Well, am I correct?
No, I would beg to disagree with you on all fronts. Yeah, if you look at migration crisis, it did not start in Cameroon, or never end in Cameroon. There are other countries that their citizens have been trooping out of the country. So it is not something which is limited to Cameroon. Other countries, take for example,
Cote
d'Ivoire, or Nigeria,
Senegal,
and etc. So I would not think it is something which is just limited to Cameroon. It is an African issue, not.
So
not
you
just
then, you then agree with me that if Mr. Bia's government had been resilient, we will not be having such a problem.
No, I wouldn't agree with you. Even go to Asia, where I have been severally. There are other citizens of other countries that cross into other countries for greener pastures. But then I would just want to add that those who are going out of the country for greener pastures, they should learn to turn their pastures around them green for them to fit on it.
So you are like saying that the government is not responsible for such unforetold damages committed to Cameroonians?
I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. I don't.
That the enabling environment is not there for them to triumph in the country?
When you say enabling, there wouldn't be an enabling environment. We have a very, very enabling, but that's why you see foreigners coming to invest in Cameroon. If there were to be no enabling environment, foreigners would have come to invest in Cameroon in their thousands. So I want to beg to disagree with you.
Are you like saying that, okay, these young people who moved out of the country should not move because the environment is enabling?
I am not saying they should not move, but I'm saying they should exercise some restraint in moving. Yeah, because you cannot move into another person's country without any focus in mind as to what you are going to do. So you don't just bump into a country because you think you go there and you harvest money, or there is a pool account there that they distribute to immigrants. No, it doesn't just work that way. But then I would say all is well that ends well. I am happy that they came back alive and strong. But then they should, like President Pobia said, we should get back to the field and till the soil. The soil doesn't disappoint. So that is it. And just to add a word, Mr. Kejang, I am appealing to the youth that we know things are hard, but not just in Cameroon. They're well over. You go to Europe, America, in Germany, they're well over. So we should try to exercise restraint and see how to better our lives in Cameroon. Cameroon is better off than other countries. So that is a fact.
So now you are coming back to the fact that it is better off, but bad governance is spoiling everything.
I will not say it is bad governance. We might have some aspect of no human endeavor is perfect. No human endeavor is perfect. We might not have a perfect governance, but then the government in place is doing all it can to say to me that Cameroonians have a decent life in Cameroon. So that is it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kejang.
And of course, they came back in the hundreds after the were subjected to very inhumane treatment in Libya. Augustine, you followed Barrister Ibis Stanley. But the issue here is not whether or not they came back, but whether what pushed them out of the country, the push factors. Economy not enabling. But then some people are saying that, well, if others could stay behind and probably resist the storm of bad governance, they too could have done that.
We have been addressing quite a number of issues on this panel, but I want to say that this particular issue, in fact, give a pain in my heart. That in the 21st century, Africans are subjected to slavery. When I watched the video, I wept, and I asked myself, human beings go through this inhumane treatment from fellow human beings, from fellow Africans. Are Libyans Europeans?
They'll tell you they have the white skin.
No, wrong. They should better rethink. They are Africans. Even their unblemished leader, Muammar Gaddafi, proved his passion and love for Africa and for Africans. Why should they have such barbaric and inhuman, that insensitivity to human dignity before the face of the world? Before saying the factors that contributed to our brothers to be taking such a risk, he will risk nothing, gains nothing. But I, for one, by my personal opinion, I will not encourage anybody to bomb into the desert because the situation back at home is chaotic. Can we brave it? Do you want to tell me that the hundreds of Cameroonians that were massacred on the 1st of October, their blood will go for nothing? These are matters. And they're going to water the tree of freedom for this country to emerge. I will not encourage our brothers and sisters to be entering into the seas and deserts for the quest of greener pastures, only to go and be raped, to go and be sodomized, to go and be killed. Kejan, you are talking about, I want to laud the effort of the international organization with the Cameroon government for repatriating 250. But I want to tell you that one of them revealed that over 3,000 Cameroonians
Are still being held.
are still being held, and they might die because the situation is anarchical, is chaotic. The government should go further from what they have done. This now comes to play. That is where I sharply disagree with Barrister Ebi. Migrants from Asia is not the same like migrants from Africa, like migrants from Cameroon. Migrants from Europe or from Asia might just be for adventure or for tourism. But is that the case here with Africans? Is that the case here with Cameroonians?
Now, Augustine,
the answer is no.
You are spitting a lot of venom there, but I think I should probably put this question to you. I talk about the push factor.
Yes, the push factor.
The economy was enabling.
You started this. You started
this. Matter of governance.
You started this panel by saying, I want to say that bad governance is synonym to Satanism. Bad governance is synonym to Satanism, because in bad governance you get a little few living in affluence, while the majority live in complete plenary, misery, abject poverty. You can see it visible in Cameroon. The prisons are full with people. They will tell you colossal amount they have embezzled. Even their jailed term is like a moment of rest for them. That is why I used to ask myself.
But they don't enjoy the money anyway.
They don't enjoy. But what is it never worth the peace.
No, but don't you think
to jail them?
Don't you think that
when the billions are still there stuck in banks?
Don't you think this suits some of them who actually invested probably 1 million, 2, 3, 4 million to embark on certain adventure?
That is why I am blaming. I want to blame parents, because there are some of them. I'm taking their words. There are some of them. Their parents have sold land for millions, and give them to go for adventure. Why not sell that land and say, please, can you establish a provisional store? Why not sell the land? I mean, 1 million francs, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million.
For business?
For business, I mean, to go into the business world. Let us brave the odds. Nobody will come to change Cameroon. It is us Cameroonians that will change Cameroon. Barrister Ebi just said that President Biya had asked Cameroonians to go back to the farms. I agreed. I am working in Douala. If it turns out tomorrow that I'm not going to be here, Kejan, I will go back to my village.
And you go to the farm.
And till the soil.
We'll give you 65,000 francs to go back.
No, that is an insult.
65,000 francs was given handed to some of these migrants.
65,000 francs, I believe it was transport fare. I got journalists say that reinsertion. Yeah, reinsertion in their families.
Can you reinsert with 65,000?
Reinsertion in their families, meaning that pay transport and get to your family. the family
It's not for
circle.
business.
What business? What business can you do with, even if you want to sell sweet? Even if you want to be selling pure water, can 65,000 do the magic? The answer is no. Some will say that, oh, the Force of Victor started with, but that is this epoch. It's not in this era.
When taxes are so high.
Yes.
The cost of.
You see, I was just saying that bad governance we started. You quoted the case of Douala, the city center, the city metropolis of Douala. You cannot plight on taxis because potholes are everywhere. You cannot sit, you and I, who are colleagues of different media organs, we cannot have a quality time. I mean, on board a taxi, because our conversation will never be coherent. You're jumping and hitting your head, and they will tell me
that it is a successful government.
That is that we are emerging by 2035, and this is an Austro modern bridge with modern architectural design constructed. Yes, you can fly, you can now drive smoothly, but you get stuck
somewhere.
And people are already on aircraft. We are still creeping.
Augustine Wendum.
So I want to say that no, we this generation, we want to say that let those in governance stop for a while and think.
But Augustine, before we wrap up, we understand that despite the call that thousands and thousands are still being held in slavery camps, some are still processing their documents to go out of the country.
But that is the paradox.
I mean, the message is not going through.
That is the paradox. It's not a matter of the message is not going through. There are some of us who believe that we can only make it in the white man's country. Let me tell you something. I was with one a moral personality in this country. You're getting me?
Names withheld.
No, names withheld. Do you know, a lady, a Cameroonian, came in from France and was recounting her ordeals, what she's going through in France. This moral personality said, but my daughter, come back home. She said, no, I prefer to die there. And she was asking for assistance, coming in from France. Why do our brothers and sisters think that they can only make it in the white world? I'm not saying that it's bad to venture. I'm not saying that it's wrong to dream. I'm not saying that it's wrong to be ambitious. If I have to be ambitious, I have to go, I have to stick my neck for that which will pay off. Not to go for suicide mission. That is my personal opinion. Because most of our brothers and sisters are going for suicide mission. Some will tell you that some had finally gotten to
the dreamland.
Not the dreamland or Cappadocia. It's in the island of Italy.
Yeah, Sicily or whatever.
Yes. But how many have reached there? And how many have drowned? How many have been raped? How many have been sodomized? How many are traumatized? Those who have repatriated and they are home now, they need psychologists to recycle them, to change their mindset. Else tomorrow they will still fall in the bush. And this is the greatest challenge for our government. Government communication ministers should not be holding only press conferences. These are actions that the Minister for Social Affairs should not swim into action and see to it that adequate care is given to these Cameroonians repatriated, and those held should be brought home. And those who are still compiling documents to go should think twice. Because now it shows that for you to venture through the Libyan coast, you need to go for novenas, you need to celebrate masses and vigils.
Thanks very much, Augustine. Thanks very much.
But then, I want to say that I'm not today, if I have the opportunity to go to the US of A with genuine documents,
You will go.
why not?
Moses
Why
did
not?
Moses did not see the promised land. Am I right?
Oh yeah. Joshua did it.
Joshua did it.
Yes.
He completed it.
Oh yeah.
So not everybody will see the promised land.
Not everybody will see the promised land.
Thanks a lot,
Yes.
Augustine Wendung, for being part of the program, and thanks for being part of the program with me. I've been Kejang Henry Atembe Indwala, Raungufu, and Roland Lebja worked with me. And of course, the coordination was done by Taruki Divine Ranki Jr. From all of us, it's goodbye from me.